Well, good evening. My name is Kroy Ekblaw. I'm the Preserve Director for the City of Scottsdale, and I'm going to run through some little bit of an overview that picks up off of where Greg had gone off. And just with a regional perspective, this is really the metropolitan Phoenix area, and identifying some of the regional open spaces that already exist. Certainly the county regional facilities, 120,000 acres, which they have 2.1 million visits in 2013, which represented a 17% increase over 2012. We have the Phoenix Parks and Preserves on the regional basis. We have Scottsdale's McDowell Preserve here in red. And wanted to, and of course, the relationship, and that's part of what we want to talk about, to the Tonto National Forest and this urban interface, which was pretty clearly showing up from some of Greg's numbers as far as 71% of the visitors coming from within 50 miles. Just real quick, following up on his points on population. In 1990, the metro area had 2.2 million people. As of 2014, it doubled to 4.4 million. This is metropolitan, not the county alone. It's projected by 2040 to go to 7 million. And so that's a 2.6 million increase in the next 25 years. And so it's going to be very important as we look at these areas of recreation, and not just the Tonto, but the relationship to those within the valley itself. And wanted to focus now really on this area of the I-17, and we'll use north of Shea Boulevard as some of the next comparison points. Again, population of that area in 2010 was just under 550,000 people in that area. 2040 is projected to increase by 255,000. So again, almost a 50% increase that is coming just to this portion of the valley, and that close proximity to all of these open space areas, and talking about some of the use. The county regional, McDowell Mountain Regional Park that abuts the preserve and Tonto National Forest, you see 85,000 visits, of which there they have 60% mountain bikers. Their campgrounds are heavily used in the peak season. From the standpoint of the preserve, 30,000 acres that have been protected in Scottsdale, we see 600,000 visits occurring in the last season. And that started from zero at some point in time, at whatever point you want to pick. But that's been rapidly increasing as we've provided the resources, and I'll talk a little bit more. Just for a comparison, Little Pinnacle Peak Park, a 1.7 mile trail for the last 5 years, has averaged 225,000 visits a year on that trail. I don't have the numbers, but you can look at both Piestewa Peak and Camelback Mountain, and numbers there are anywhere in the 500,000 to 1 million at each location on the year. And this doesn't speak to all the other regional recreation opportunities that are out there, but just wanted to point out, from a context standpoint, we talk these big numbers of growth. They will have an impact, because clearly the people who live here, who come here, enjoy the weather, enjoy outdoor recreation, and that's a big deal. From a standpoint of the preserve, we're sitting at 30,000 acres protected. It includes the McDowell Mountains themselves, and more recently we acquired lands to the north of Dynamite, and we're just opening those areas up. Majority of this is protected through city ownership, some of it through zoning and easements. And we've been very successful in a very short period of time. In 2014, we will be at 150 miles of trail. We expect to add over the next few years 60 more miles, and with a total of around 210 that we'll end up with. Right now, a big issue in the planning of the preserve was to ensure that we have access trailheads, and that's from, again, part of that urban interface. And we have 11 trailheads existing today. We expect to add somewhere 2 to 4 additional ones as we continue to work on our planning and coordination, both with the County Regional Park and the Tonto National Forest. You know, the value to community Clearly, the reason for our preserve started with scenic, protecting that, looking at what would happen in other communities, be it Camelback Mountain or others as development encroached. It was the threat of development, but the protection of the environment, recreational access, were all important aspects that were identified as to why Scottsdale wanted to have a preserve. Scottsdale citizens are pretty unique. They stepped up in a remarkable way because by the time our 2 sales taxes that they approved are completed in 2034, we will have seen most likely at least a $1.6 billion investment in buying the land and building the improvements and paying the debt service for the bonds for the land and the improvements. It's not necessarily what every community is able to do, but it is representative of the interest of the citizens of the community in the value of recreation and open space. We have a whole host of partnerships, and I'll talk about the first 2, or the Conservancy and the Convention Visitor Bureau, a little bit more, but we have a great number of user groups, many of them represented in this audience, equestrians, hikers, mountain bikers, and rock climbers involved with us. We work with Game and Fish, we work with the County Regional Park, and we're working with the National Forest. Exploring opportunities from planning, education, research, resources, and marketing across the board. These resource limitations, although we've been fortunate in having capital dollars, the management dollars, we don't have the same resources there. So those are going to be important to us in the long term of how do we manage these resources. Just wanted to show some examples from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And this doesn't just represent Scottsdale, the name is Scottsdale, but they include many resorts in Phoenix and Paradise Valley, Cave Creek, etc. Tourism is big to Scottsdale. 1 in every 8 jobs is directly related to tourism. They've helped pay those sales taxes that have provided the dollars for the preserve. We know from surveys that visitors have a strong desire to be here, and the CBB has really picked up on the fact, note down here, well, San Diego, yeah, they're known for oceans and beaches. Well, the Scottsdale and the Valley of the Sun, we have the Sonoran Desert. And there's a lot of marketing of that relates back to tourism and is a positive. 38% of visitors participate in outdoor activities. They like hiking, jeep tours, horseback riding, hot air ballooning, boating, and water sports. Not that we have many of those in Scottsdale itself, but we have some neighbors that do, fortunately. And so those are all important things. Their marketing and communications, be it the New York City the advertising on the subway, be it the Discovery Guide, which is their highest accessed piece of information on trails and things. They focus on the Sonoran Desert, the preserve. I think some of their images probably include the Tonto National Forest. I spoke about the Conservancy. This is our primary partner. Of our 30,000 acres, Scottsdale has about 6 full-time staff that work in the preserve. For the 120,000 acres of Maricopa County, they have 79 full-time staff. So we are pretty thin, but we get by with that because we have a relationship with the Conservancy that provides us over 500 volunteers who just do a tremendous amount of work in stewardship, education, and advocacy. In particular, they're out on patrols for us, helping identify situations that may be out there, be it safety, people in trouble, trail maintenance, the management and maintenance, particularly of trails, but restoration of old disturbed areas, pathfinders. There are concierges at the trailhead. Someone walking in with flip-flops and no water wanting to go out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that might not be such a good idea. So those are the types of things. Big one here, the Field Institute, representative is here, the research, the citizen scientists, doing this work that doesn't necessarily require having to come up with a lot of dollars from the city standpoint, but finding funding, finding partners, are all areas that we're looking to improve the long-term management opportunities for the preserve, and those are relationships back to the Forest Service, cross opportunities, Game and Fish, the County Regional Park, etc., that we think are great opportunities. education, the hike programs, the nature guides, again, all things of benefits to citizens and to tourists as well that we think are really important in this area. From the standpoint that we've doubled the acres of the preserve in just the last 4 or 5 years, and the Conservancy, again, has doubled the number of volunteers they're training a year. And so it's a coordinated effort between the city and the Conservancy in providing a lot of support for this document. So really just summarizing that the impacts on the metro area, the urban aspect, the relationship to the Tonto National Forest, all of these regional parks are going to face the same challenges. Limited resources, increasing population, a lot of people wanting to use these areas. And whether that's for in the preserve, we don't have water, and we don't have motorized opportunities, but it really doesn't matter which of those recreation areas. There is going to be growth and interest in more access in the upcoming 25 years. And planning for it now is really going to be critical. And I believe it needs to be a coordinated plan. This can't be Scottsdale alone, Phoenix alone, the county alone, or the National Forest Service alone. We're all going to face similar challenges. And the more that we can find ways to work together are going to be critical in the long term.